I want to see media for the community, made by the community.
We must be active participants in our community.
We deserve locally made media that reflects the place we live.
So what does this all mean? What does it look like when everyone participates and lets their voice be heard?
Don't touch that dial, you're here for a reason.
Hi there!
I think I'm pretty good with advice.
You know, this is our community garden.
It's the message of, by, and for a community.
Do it yourself TV.
MetroEast has time and again played a key role in supporting the community. Through the years, there have been many dedicated individuals who have supported and advanced the movement known as community media. As the notion of media for and by the community began to gather steam in the late 60s and early 70s, George Stoney, regarded as one of the pioneers, saw the great potential to reimagine the media landscape.
First thing, I got back to New York in 1970, just when the franchise was being written. And a whole bunch of people were talking about access. It was the idea that people should have a right, you know, It was great 60s stuff.
There was a rare opportunity when activism was a part of the United States, when technology changed, channel space was available, and cable franchising was coming in.
You could use this as a community building tool in that if it were very local, people could talk about their community, they could talk about who they wanted to be as a community, where they wanted to go, what was important to them, and begin to engage one another using that cable system that hadn't existed before.
Folks who cared about media and cared about access to a commercial medium in this country began to think maybe there's a place on at the television table for communities and citizens with their own interests and concerns that may be quite different from what an advertiser would want. And community access was birthed.
Cable TV first became available in the 1940s. This meant rural places could now receive major broadcast signals. Basically, put an antenna on the highest hill and run cables to people's houses. This service wasn't free, and private companies began making profits by stringing cables on the very streets everybody owns. These streets are considered the public right of way.
Public rights of what?
Public rights of way.
Streets and rights of way have always been one of the core responsibilities of local governments, cities and counties. Maintaining the roads so people can use them, fixing potholes.
So we have local governments seizing on the one aspect of federal law that allows them to get compensation for this incredibly profitable private use of a public rights of way.
The charging of a right-of-way fee, a franchise fee, a license fee, it's called many things, is a core concept. It's always been there.
Now let's be clear. The real money in TV comes from commercials, and you, the viewer, are the most important part of that financial equation. With the birth of stations like HBO and WTBS, the cable operators had something worth selling and distributing across the nation. All of a sudden, cable operators needed to get into cities. Remember, they need the biggest number of eyeballs to view those commercials. Every city was being approached by cable companies desperate to get into the market, needing to use the public rights of way, and of course, establish a franchise agreement. In order to win the franchise, cable providers frequently had to meet some pretty high demands for public access.
It still, though, depended in each community on local people with vision, perseverance, and often just being harder-headed than a cable company in saying, you will provide something to my community for the privilege of operating in our public rights of way.
In Portland area, we were fortunate that the citizen task forces and, for the most part, the local governments all worked together to write good, tough requirements for community media to which these companies had to respond in their bids.
You saw not only individuals, but community-based organizations, schools, local governments, all realizing that they were not getting a fair shake from the corporate media, from the local broadcast television affiliates.
Without the activism and the concern and the care of people from all walks of life, demanding to be heard and recognizing they weren't being heard on commercial media, none of this could happen.
East County was no different, and by the early 80s, the franchise negotiations were in full swing. Dedicated citizens and our local government realized that this was an opportunity to build a great community asset.
East County itself, Gresham, Troutdale, Fairview, Wood Village, and Multnomah County, are well aware of what it's like to be subject to dominant media, because they listen to Portland broadcast stations that only talk about Portland.
Nobody is going to cover our local elections. Nobody covers the local events we have here. Nobody covers the culture that takes place. Nobody covers the community building.
Elected officials realize, where do we talk about our issues? Well, the answer is, you talk about them through your community media.
The local governments gave us a chance. They said, okay, we're going to let you try this. And folks have made that work and made it really valuable to our local communities.
My voice, your voice, our voice matters. We own the airwaves. No, really, we own the airwaves.
The very first cable franchise agreement in East County was awarded to Rogers Cable Systems. Multnomah Cable Access Corporation opened its doors in May 1984 at Mount Hood Community College. By the end of the year, the staff had increased from 3 employees to 8. Groundbreaking for the new studio took place in July 1985, and the newly designed space went live in May 1986.
Work has already begun on building the new television facility for Multnomah Cable Access Corporation.
We've been operating out of a temporary facility, but this is going to be our real home, and we'll really be able, I think, to get down to work.
Hi, and welcome to the grand opening of the new Multnomah Cable Access television facility. You know, we had nothing when we got going, so there was a chance to build a studio from the ground up.
Immediately upon getting it up and running, our needs were growing.
It was wild and woolly days. I'm thinking that in those days we had playback out of a closet.
Master Control is where all of Multnomah Cable Access's programming originates.
At MCAC, a staff person accompanies the group on their first shoot.
The Mount Hood Cable Regulatory Commission is asking for your assistance. You have a unique opportunity to help create a community vision about use of the cable system in the future.
My job was to help the public access producers produce their programming.
We were all fascinated in the medium. Kind of a no-holds-barred opportunity to get in and push the envelope until finally someone said, stop that, no more.
Oh, what a jump!
Did the trike jump for a number of years. These guys would go down this huge ramp with a kicker on the end and go flying off into the lake. I'm surprised no one perished.
But right now, I bet you're probably asking yourselves, what does it take to get involved in community television? Is it really that difficult?
Because it's TV, and it's only by you. Get your friends to do it, you do it too.
What's in a name? At the beginning, we were known as the Multnomah Cable Access Corporation. In 1991, as a way of explaining who we were and what we did, we changed our name to Multnomah Community Television, MCTV for short. Our name changes reflect the ever-evolving role we play in the community.
So now you want me to embarrass myself by making myself look like a dinosaur, because I can talk about how backwards technology was.
A deck on one shoulder and a camera on the other shoulder.
I mean, I guess the big strong guys would do both. They would carry the big deck and run the big camera.
You would run, and if you had to get someplace, you'd lock your hands so that everything wouldn't fall off.
Usually we were a 2-person team, so you're following along together with one person with the camera and the other person with the deck on their shoulder monitoring the audio, and it's just like, seriously?
The equipment storage room contains all of our portable equipment, such as Hitachi cameras, Panasonic 3/4-inch decks, JVC VHS decks, and all of the audio cables and microphones.
What was the most gratifying is just to see people create with the tools we gave them.
It's not just, here's a camera and here's the buttons you push, but how do you make a good show that effectively communicates a message?
Another important element of post-production is the addition of graphics and visual effects. The video producer uses a computer mouse to draw images on screen, choosing from a wide selection of drawing tools and colors.
The concept behind community television was that it was open for everyone.
That everyone who comes to the door is welcome.
But it was unique. I mean, this was a new thing, right? It's like, come on in and make TV shows. We're going to show you how. We were all very proud to be a part of that.
P, E, and G. quite simply the three interrelated components of community media. P is for public, training, tools, and channel time for members of the community. E is for education, student filmmakers, workshops, media literacy. G is for government, gavel-to-gavel coverage of local government and local elections.
Really, there was just a feeling of excitement. This was something different, and it was an opportunity that had not been there before.
We're gonna start out stepping, right leg. We need a touchdown. You at home, you can modify any way you want to. Bend the knee. Bend the knee.
I have been producing the Body Smith workout in one form or another since 1986.
We had a great volunteer base, a big volunteer base, and they were very dedicated volunteers.
In my crew, I've had a lot of very loyal people, some who have been with me for over 20 years.
You get people coming into the system that have access to the equipment but haven't been trained, have no preconceptions.
There were a lot of crazy productions, yeah, public access productions.
People came to the studio from the general public for various reasons.
And you got to meet the most interesting people that would have either concepts that they wanted to run down, or they would have an issue that they needed to get out in front of everyone.
I'm Liz Russell, and this is 15 Minutes. Mind your business.
Welcome once again to the Real Estate Hotline.
Atheists and agnostics write to me and say, Sister Paula, you are the only religious show that we watch.
Call it a hobby. Call it a passion. Call it exercising your right to free speech. This is about kids, seniors, people like you and me gaining confidence in front of and behind the camera, doing great things out and about in the community, and letting our voices be heard.
It is really my program, and I have really total control.
When I come out here, I have a right to say exactly what I think.
I wouldn't be out there if it wasn't for MetroEast, you know. They've been broadcasting my show for 12 years now.
I've been cleaning this over 18 years by the grace of the Lord. Country gospel straight from the horse's mouth.
I can hear the whistle from a mile away.
I just think it's fabulous that we've got this resource.
MetroEast is the people's television.
Welcome to Youth Music Empowerment.
Welcome to this episode of Prepare Gresham.
Oregon Quilting.
Highway to Health.
Part-time Playhouse.
They go like this, they go. So tell us, how did you get into the paranormal field?
Bomb diggity.
What is it about this place that makes so many different people come together?
And yes, there is a very large diversity here, and that's what makes community.
Even if we don't always agree about things, why we can still help each other on the programs.
It's not adversarial. You already know this is a freedom of speech place. It's a place where you can bring your ideas.
When working on the show, they put all that aside, and so do I, because we love being here. We love being a part of creating community media.
Across the nation, volunteers at cable access stations produce more than 20,000 hours of local programming each week. That's more than NBC, CBS, ABC, Fox, and PBS combined.
I can't do this production for myself and get it on TV without an environment like this.
I cannot go out and buy a studio. I can't buy the cameras.
But I can come out here and I can access video airtime, which would cost me a phenomenal amount.
It doesn't matter what your color is, what your race is, what language you speak. Anybody can come.
MetroEast currently has programming in English, Spanish, Vietnamese, Cantonese, Russian, and Ukrainian.
If you watch the media, it tells you every day what you supposedly think. And my politics are not the same. My religious beliefs are not the same. My ideas are not the same.
If you start shutting this person up, and shutting that person up, and shutting this person up, that's not America.
Go from the close-up, pull out. She stopped coming as often.
When the community is the center of your work, great things can happen. Parades, local celebrations, forums, neighborhood meetings, the list is endless. When these all come together on the same even platform, the true meaning of community can come to life, and more importantly, make a difference.
You're part of this community. I mean, you're unique because you're our neighbor.
Your reach is broad. Your basket has got a bunch of different things in it, from churches, from nonprofits, from government agencies.
You're tied to this community in multiple ways.
Here we are back again, Troutdale's 42nd annual Summer Fest.
I think community coverage is essential for the whole notion of a community's perception of itself, for its self-image, for its self-pride.
I mean, I think we genuinely represent what is going on in our communities.
It's important that people are represented, and we need local representation.
If you didn't, narrow the focus onto this community, who's going to?
Nice work on the boards there by Reynolds.
As a partner to nonprofits, MetroEast works with over 150 organizations a year. Our studio, single camera and mobile production units bring multiple community-focused events to our channels annually. These productions are made possible by staff and hundreds of volunteers working together on behalf of the community.
I think it's so important for people to be engaged in their community.
The things I think that nonprofits and some of the programs that I'm involved with, I think they promote an active citizenship, and you help to do that as well. And that's what we want people to be, is active citizens.
Frequently, the matters that concern us most are actually happening right here in our own backyard. One of the greatest things that community media has done is bring transparency to the local politics that impact us most. We like them, and through our channels, we get to see them at work.
So, the service that a lot of folks might not realize you provide is the transparency that everybody's looking for in government. They want to hold people accountable, and quite honestly, government officials should be held accountable.
If you're going to be a successful local government, people have to see you in action and see the consequences of that action.
Ask any city council member in Multnomah County or any elected official whether live coverage of their proceedings has an impact on them, and you'll get an answer. It does.
In 1987, Gresham City Council was the first government meeting to be broadcast live. Today, we air 12 municipal meetings a month, which includes 3 cities, 2 school districts, and the county, which equals over 30 hours of original, transparent government programming.
I think the best thing that Access has been done with putting government on cable.
I want government to do what government should do, and that's run police departments and fire departments.
You need to have even equity.
We're going to stand in solidarity.
It's not federal government that you're looking at. You're looking at people that come from the same community that you come from.
I know communities all over America are having problems.
They're asking for help. They want help. They need help.
Well, if this is big government, give me a break. Where's my $65,000 a year?
There's no substitute for the human infrastructure for public policy, good governance, and just keeping people informed about what's going on where they live.
And especially people that wouldn't drive to a meeting get to see their government in action. I think the entire community benefits, and we actually have something that can help weave the fabric together rather than rip it apart.
At root, community media is all about taking the power of the media and localizing it. And opening up government in that way does precisely that.
Over the years, MetroEast has consistently won awards at both the regional and national levels for its youth media program. Our current youth media program, Get Real, debuted in 2011. Since then, Get Real has partnered with 7 school districts, worked with over 600 students and educators, and produced over 150 videos. Right from the start, we've encouraged the next generation of media users to get their hands on the technology so they can bring their stories to life. But it's more than just learning to use the technology. We must teach people, especially young people, to question, analyze, and think critically about sending and receiving information.
We're always, consuming media every single day.
There's always a meaning behind every single frame.
I can't look at anything the same anymore without deconstructing messages.
Even though the media says something, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's 100% true.
One of the most conservative estimates suggests a child will see over 100 advertising images a day. That is over 36,000 commercials per year.
I feel it's very important for the youth to have a voice in today's media because they're the people who are going to be growing up and making these changes.
By not having a voice, you can't fight against oppression.
Giving the cameras almost back to teens, or especially teen girls, and showing them that you can make the image that you see.
A positive message actually affects other people, and with positivity comes change.
You record a message on the front camera of your smartphone and load it to YouTube. It's not nearly as powerful as a message that you sit there and you talk to a camera and you really look at people intently.
I like to make people feel different emotions, and to get a reaction out of somebody is the most amazing feeling.
This is behind the scenes of our movie.
Are you guys nervous or excited about anything?
I'm not nervous this time.
You're finally getting comfortable with everything.
Yep.
The greatest growth I've seen in students has been in their creativity and their technical confidence.
It was really fun to understand what's it like to work in a team, understand what's it like to use professional equipment.
And especially being in a place where everyone is kind of passionate about the same things, cool stuff happens.
Having the gear, having a studio to do that, and having it be open to them to produce is a really great opportunity.
When you gather a community of volunteer producers, local governments, nonprofits, and youth together, you create something that is much more than the sum of its parts. You build a local media outlet that celebrates diverse community voices, sharing ideas and working together. However, the media landscape is ever evolving. The companies who control the pipes, the cables, the airwaves, are consolidating, and the only common denominator is a very lucrative bottom line. We must ask ourselves, at what cost?
I have a situation where there's a tiny handful of companies with essential control of the vast majority of content, what's on the medium, as well as the pipes by which the medium is delivered.
There will be 2 or 3 or 4 voices, and they will be from the same perspective essentially, and there will be very little that is different or unique or truly representative of the complexity of this country.
In 1983, 90% of American media was owned by 50 companies. 30 years later, that same 90% is controlled by only 6 companies.
And it also gets rid of people who cannot afford to participate in the dominant commercial media. It limits their ability to do so economically.
We've lost a lot when the FCC, which came about as working in the public interest, now appears to spend most of its time protecting corporate interest.
Prior to 2005, any company interested in offering cable services had to negotiate a separate agreement with each city in order to use a public rights-of-way. Statewide franchises allowed telecommunication companies to offer cable services without the need to negotiate.
State-level franchises are the paid-for response, and I mean paid-for response, of large telephone companies wanting to compete with cable TV companies.
When the big companies like AT&T gain statewide franchising, your local franchise is null and void.
Those laws have been devastating to community media centers across the country.
Well, for instance, in Wisconsin and Ohio, lights out in the community TV/media centers.
You can look across the country and find example after example for where this has happened.
Our future, as it always has been, is up to us. We must strive and advocate for all we do and speak out to protect our public rights of way. We must preserve our electronic green space, the place where all community voices can be heard, the original electronic town hall.
Community media is essential if we're going to preserve our democratic values.
It connects people where they live.
You don't have to be rich to do this.
We can say we have a voice.
If this place no longer existed, then the voices would be silenced.
If we don't have this place to engage about who we are and who we want to be as communities, democracy fails.
There's a charm to it. There's a charm and a warmth.
The one thing after 30 years that hasn't changed is the excitement of the community to come in and make shows here.
Why not use a public voice like this? I mean, why not? Why not?
MetroEast, where your TV dreams can come true.